Those things, our folks are all working together out there. They're all communicating to try to, get this community secured and from this this beast we're going to talk about here. I thought I'd just throw a few statistics out at you from this morning's situation report nationally. This is one of the, I've been doing this. This is my 40th fire season, and I've scarcely ever seen us have this many firefighters out, this many incident management teams. So this morning's situation report said there were 105 large fires. That means they're large fires in the sense that they're not something that somebody just puts out with 3 or 4 folks in an engine. They range from a couple thousand acres to 100,000 acres. They exist in the northwest geographic area here, California, the Northern Rockies, which is Montana, and then Idaho, Utah, Nevada is the Great Basin. So there's 4 geographic areas that are at our highest preparedness level nationally. We have 30,000 firefighters on the line. That includes federal, state, local. There's contractors. There's about everything you can think of. We're also bringing down 10 hotshot crews from Canada. We've got help from the military, trained up a battalion, or I think a half a battalion, and they're going to go into California to help there. So it's a pretty tough time nationally. And the good news is the Canyon Creek fire turned up #1 out of all those fires. So we are the #1 fire in the nation today. Now that shifts around if somebody ends up getting a higher priority, but so that means we're going to get as many resources as they can find for us to successfully continue to manage this incident. So that's where we're at nationally. And the Great Basin team, and I think Jim Walker's fire marshal team has 1 day on me, so this is day 3 for us. And like I said last time, we're going to be here at least 2 weeks. To try to get this thing under control. We're actually making some pretty good progress, which we'll get into here in a minute. So I just wanted to I realize that it looks ominous up there and you can't really see the whole thing. 40,000 acres is a pretty big area. I think we're at 47 now, something like that. So it's growing every day. Right now, I think we're just going to do let you fly around the fire. So be prepared if anybody gets airsick a little bit, but I forgot your name already. Brian, I thought that was it. Brian's going to fly us around the fire, and you can kind of see what terrain the folks are dealing with out there from Google Earth. And I'll try to narrate as best as I can. So we just put a couple landmarks there. That Wildcat fire is a fairly recent fire from 2007, Tobin?
No, I think they said 96.
96, so it's a little older. So there's the fire, how it lays on the ground. You can see 395 cutting through the middle of it. So we'll fly around here to looking at it, there's Canyon City, kind of looking at it from the northeast a little bit. You can see how it's draped over the top of the ridge there. Coming on around towards the west, that's what we call Division Foxtrot, and then coming on around to Division Alpha. It doesn't mean much to you folks, but that's looking from the southwest. That whole flank right there, we've got people all over that flank. They're working with dozers, hand crews, engines, but it's a really jagged burn and heavy timber, so it's kind of a difficult to get a good handle on that, but we do have it all staffed. And then as Chief Hallman said, that most of their folks are in here in the interior working to protect the structures. So this is looking up Canyon Creek, of course, from the south. So that whole V in there is kind of a problem area, and we've got a lot of resources in there to kind of keep that thing at bay and let it come down the hill. Coming around here, this is really looking from the wilderness side, and you can see that rugged country in there. We haven't really staffed that at this point because we don't have, we're still working to get around the part that's going to really infect homes and communities. So there we go, back looking at it with the top pointing north. So I don't see our Our operations section chief, Jeff Serber, got stuck in traffic, so I think we're going to have Tobin Kelly, our fire behavior analyst, talk to you a little bit about fire weather and operation, what they're doing operationally. I think operations comes first, doesn't it, Tracy? Anyway, Tobin? He's floating around the fire enough, and he's an operations guy too, so he can do a fine job.
Thank you, Beth. All right, so as Beth said, I'm Tobin Kelly, the fire behavior analyst. So waiting for Jeff here. I'll go ahead and don't have a pointer, so I'll try and describe where I'm talking about. But talk a little bit about what was looking like this morning and what was happening out there this afternoon. So I'll start where you see the 395 highway marker back up Vance Creek, where the big switchback is in 395. That's Vance Creek. There was a lot of fire up there that burned all night very actively up towards the Fall Mountain Lookout and the power line that runs through there. That has continued to be pretty active today, and that is a big point of concern. Oh, here's a pointer. Thank you very much. So, oops, where are we? Okay, yeah, there's Vance Creek coming up here, so maybe you can go over a little bit, Ryan. Okay, so you can see the power line right there. So the fire was moving around up in this country and still burning very actively. So you can scroll out a little bit, Ryan. Yeah, that's fine. You can just leave it right there. That'll be perfect. Coming around here on kind of where 395 or the snow park is along the 4920 road, I believe that is. We did pick up a spot fire out here. They were working extremely hard on this. And this is a real critical point of concern here from a fire behavior and operations aspect to hold this right here so we don't lose this section of line. Coming around to this side where the 196 road is, this has been pretty critical, a lot of fire in here, and a dry soda lookout. This fire perimeter is now out past dry soda. It did burn around the lookout, and it's crossed into the private land in places down here. Into Canyon Creek here, today the fire became very active right down here in the canyon bottom. Go ahead and scroll out, Ryan. And the last I saw, what was on what we call Modus Detection, which is a satellite, it looked like it had moved up past Wickiup Campground. So potentially it moved quite a bit there. Here is I believe it's the middle fork of Canyon Creek. The fire was almost down to the creek when I was out there driving around about 1 o'clock. And it looks like it may have spotted across and is coming out here. In the wilderness, that's been pretty quiet. There's been one basin back about in here that was burning very actively, but that was still a little west of that real rocky divide. And the fire had spotted over this rocky divide, but it's very scattered rocky fuels up there, so not anticipating a whole bunch of issues right now with fire behavior there. The north side, where Beth was talking about, of Canyon City, that has been pretty favorable for winds. Crews have done a really good job mopping that up, so the fire behavior is quite a bit less there. So that's kind of what we're looking at for today. I have some slides to talk about what the weather looks like over the next few days. Okay, so this is for tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, and we're sitting about right here. This is just showing, a big slot of hot, dry air that's coming in. These little wind barbs there show the wind direction. We expect the weather tomorrow to be much like today. It's still going to be breezy out there, pretty active fire, but the concern we have, going on the next slide, Brian, is starting on the 20th, which will be Thursday. We still are going to be under some warm and dry weather there with westerly winds to northwesterly winds. And that is going to have increasing winds. We're looking at general winds being about 10 to 15, gusting 15 to 20. And the same thing is going to happen on Friday, the 21st. What's going to happen is that the temperatures are going to drop, but they expect the winds to stay high. I've been talking to the Weather Service folks up at Pendleton and also at the Northwest Coordination Center in Portland. And this is going to be a big concern for us with the wind event that we're expecting to have for about a couple of days. go on to the next slide there. So I believe that'll be Saturday, is that right? 22nd? And so it's going to happen Saturdays, and the wind should relax. So it's still going to be somewhat breezy, but a lot less wind than the previous day or two. Temperatures will start going up again. Doesn't look like we're going to get an increase out of this system. So can we go back to Google Earth, Ryan? And so I'll just talk a little bit about kind of what I expect the fire behavior to do with this wind. They expect that we're going to continue with these strong northwest winds. And so out here by Dry Soda, where it's out getting onto the private land, it's a lot lighter fuels out of the timber there. So hopefully, you know, that the wind can carry that through the fuels rapidly, but it's a lot easier for us to control out there too. My main concern is going to be the wind coming up Canyon Creek here and continuing to push this fire out to the southeast with that northwest wind. And you know, hopefully if it gets out as far as the wildcat fire, those fuels certainly won't stop the fire, but they may slow it down some. And the forest kind of out, I believe it's Wendell Glades area. There's another meadow out there, I can't remember, I drove that. They've done quite a bit of fuels reduction work out there, hand piles, machine piles, some prescribed burning. So the fire will still burn through that stand, but I wouldn't expect it to crown through the trees. And so that will be a big help, because I do expect the fire to get out there over the next few days. So that's kind of a synopsis for what we're looking at.
Thanks, Tom. So now I know a lot of you are concerned about the electrical issue, so I'd like to bring up Ned Ratterman from OTEC.
So right now, what we're looking at is we have our line crews out. They've been out since the very beginning of the fire. And the guys that are working on this fire are in this community. These are citizens in this community, and they are chomping at the bit to do everything they can to get these lines back on. The hardest part for us is that they are limited in what they can do by the fire activity and the uncertainty of what's going to happen next with the fire. I get calls all throughout the day from this crew, from individuals saying, what can we do? We want to build this back up as quickly as we can, and it's just not safe for them right now. We're doing as much assessment as we can at this point, and that's pretty much the extent of what we can do, except we have started building just outside Canyon City today to try to go south up into the canyon. Luckily, the upper end of Canyon Creek beyond JRL is still intact, and so if things maintain the way they are now, our goal is to build that corridor back so that we can feed that area with the distribution line. Time frames are impossible to deliver right now, again, because the evolution of the fire is just completely unknown. But we do have line crews that are lined up. So we have 4 districts, as you probably all know. We have linemen in every one of our districts that will be coming up here as soon as they can. We have contract crews. We have crews from Harding Electric and Umatilla Electric. So we're ready from a tactical standpoint. It's just a matter of waiting for the fire to allow us to come in and do the rebuild. We have been doing as much assessment as we possibly could. Just to give you a little recap, the town of John Day is really fortunate in this town has 4 transmission lines, heavy lines feeding into it, which is really, really unusual for a town of this size. And so the 2 of them are 69,000 volt lines and 2 of them are 138,000 volt lines. And at one time, we had 3 of the 4 out, and one of them was completely gone on Star Ridge. The one feeding from Cow Valley and Vale had 19 structures that were on the ground. The feed out of Baker had structures that were on fire, and we were told by the fire crews that the 138 line up on top of Fall Mountain was in danger. So the odds of that happening are astronomical, and yet the whole town was very close to being out of power, and there was nothing we could do about that. We did bring in a 2.5 megawatt generator to hit the critical circuits, the hospital, Chester's, gas station, things like that, in the event that we lost everything. We hope that we don't need to use that, but it is in place at this time. Of course, as you know, in our service territory also, we have over 100,000 acres of burned material and land. So in the Baker District alone, we're fighting a complete monster over there also in trying to free up those crews as quickly as we can to bring them over this direction when the fire allows us to start working. So as far as there's questions all the time, when did you de-energize the lines? And I know that this is an emotional subject because people say you can't cut off our power because we're watering our houses to keep them from burning. And we work in conjunction with the authorities and have been asked to de-energize when the evacuation notice is issued. And the reason for that is to protect the firefighters out in the field because we can't guarantee we can get back later, de-energize those before a line possibly falls on the ground, energized, and does damage or injures or kills somebody who's fighting a fire. So we have to respond on that level. And as far as when we reheat those lines, we work again with the evacuation orders, and if the evacuation is withdrawn, and then we talk with the authorities and agree that it's safe to re-energize those lines, that's what we will be doing. For those of you who, worst case scenario, and our heart goes out to you for sure, have to rebuild, then our local office here is the conduit to use, and please go in and they'll walk you through the process as far as what you need to do. Again, our hearts go out to you, and trust me, we'll work tirelessly to get this rebuilt for you as quickly as we can.
Thanks, Ned. And just a point of clarification, when he says structures, he means power poles and power structures. So. Now I'd like to bring up Tom Stramberg to talk about the road situation. He's from ODOT.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Stramberg with the Oregon Department of Transportation. I'm the Public Information Officer for our Eastern Oregon region, and just want to give you an update on the road conditions out there. Obviously, the 395 is still shut down. Our ODOT crews are working with the Forest Service folks, emergency service providers, to try to get it open as soon as possible. But obviously, there's a lot of things going on out there that are still of hazard. Right now, our crews are working on replacing some damaged signs, some guardrail. There's a lot of trees, over 100 trees that are hazard trees that need to be removed. There's also a lot of debris that's fallen on the roadway, a lot of rocks, and that will continue on, especially when it starts to rain. So that's going to be a continued problem and continue over the next several weeks. Right now, they're hoping to get the road open on a temporary basis with pilot cars to start off with. And those pilot cars would run between, I think it's Adams Street in Canyon City up to the Polana-Izing Highway on an hourly basis. Right now we're working with the crews to figure out what best time when that can happen. Right now we're shooting tentatively to start that on Friday, but it all depends on the situation of the fire and if they can do this and make it safe. Our goal is to pilot vehicles up there again on an hourly basis and at a reduced speed and be able to avoid the hazards that are in the area. So we'll keep you updated on that. We'll post that information on tripcheck.com when we start piloting the vehicles, and then when it's open up to regular traffic, we'll have that information on TripCheck also. We'll also share that with the media, so hopefully the media outlets will be sharing that information with all of you. We understand that this is it is a critical situation for a lot of you. There's people that want to get to their homes up in the area, and we ask that you do not try to go up there. Please wait until we can get the pilot program set up and we can pilot it up through the area and get you down safely, because there will be a lot of activity in the area. We want to make sure that we avoid creating more hazards for the firefighters that are up there. Safety is our primary concern, and we appreciate your patience on this. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to bring up Lisa Stroop from the American Red Cross to talk about some disaster recovery resources.
So I'm the director for Red Cross of Central and Eastern Oregon, and those of you that were here last time heard about my fondness for Grant County, and I have to be honest, this event has really changed the way I feel about all of you. I'm positively blown away. Motivated, inspired. I have never worked with a community that has mobilized so quickly and so efficiently to help each other. I hesitate to say this because there's city people in here, but sometimes At our meetings, we talk about the difference between rural environment and city environment and how things are thought about differently. But I have to tell you, my phone's been ringing off the hook all day long. I haven't not heard from at least one county in this state from people that want to help you. So you're not forgotten. People care about you. They want to help you. So in that light, you have some folks out at the fairgrounds, and if you go out there and you see any of those ladies and gentlemen, you owe them a handshake and a thank you because they've been working their tails off and they've done a lot of good stuff out there. We recognize this is still a very active event and changes could occur, and these folks are going to be working hard for a long time. But Red Cross and your community partners have decided to start the recovery process. It's time to start taking some of those initial next steps and thinking about what we're going to do. In a few weeks, we're all going to send our kids to school, and then the air's going to get crispy, and we all know what comes after that. So let's get a move on, and here's what we have on the menu for you guys to partake in. If you have a pen and a paper, I'd ask you to write some of this down. If you don't have a pen and a paper, you can catch any of us after the meeting, and we'll get you the info. First of all, go to the fairgrounds and partake in what they have there. They have all your basic needs taken care of there, plus a huge list of resources. Resources beyond what you could imagine. If there's some oddball thing that you need that has resulted from this disaster, you go out there and ask them for it. People have come forward and provided all kinds of services. Please don't be too proud to go out there and ask for help, because these people have worked really hard to provide that for you. If you are in the canyon and you have a house that's been damaged or destroyed, you're going to see Red Cross herbs around those trucks that look like ambulances. They're full of hardware and equipment for those families. So sometimes you're going to see them parked up at the roadblock. So for those of you that are getting escorted into your properties, you can stop there and get supplies. Or as we go through the week and we're doing different recovery services, you're going to see those herbs parked around. So if you're one of those families, make sure you stop there and let them know your address and your name and get your load of cool tools and equipment. There's quite a bit of good stuff in there. We're going to start what we call a MARC, M-A-R-C, Multi-Area Resource Center. And that's going to start on Thursday from 10 to 2 right here in the high school. We're going to bring in quite a few of the local folks that those of you that have been affected probably want to talk to. So insurance, power, they have quite a few coming in. I want to thank Kathy over here. She did a great job. The county records are going to be there. A lot of people lost their documents. You need documents to be able to file claims and move forward and take some of these next steps. You're going to have county planning there. There's going to be a lot of issues for those of you moving forward with that department. OTEC will be there. Health services will be there. The pharmacy will be there. For those of you that are on regular meds and lost a lot of things in the fire, that might be a service that you need to talk to. DOJ might be there. The Red Cross will be there, as well as your folks from the fairgrounds with a list of resources for you. In addition to the Red Cross being there during the MARC event, we're also going to be at the LDS Church tomorrow from 1 to 4. And so if you know families that have been affected, or you are one of those families, I would ask you to come there and work with the Red Cross. We're going to start our recovery services tomorrow from 1 to 4 at the LDS Church. And it's important for you to come there and get signed up and get involved in that and let us help you start to take those next steps. All right. I think that's enough for now. Does that give you guys enough to play with for us to get going? Yeah? Kathy, anything else on that you want to add?
When you come to the fairgrounds, and we'll be filling out a profile for you of how to contact you, number one, and number two, what you need. And those will be submitted to the Old West Federal Credit Union, and the funds will be distributed from there. We're getting calls from all around Oregon and Washington of people who want to contribute.
Thank you for that, and they'll be available after the meeting if you have any more questions or needs. I'd like to introduce John Day Fire Chief Ron Smith.
For those of us here the other night, if my back is better, I can stand up with a little support. I don't have to sit tonight, so that's a good thing. Fire's looking much better from our perspective than it was a couple of nights ago. We have basically state configuration team on the structural protection side. They have come in. They're taking care of all the initial stuff that's going on. We've released all of the local resources, Prairie, Mount Vernon, John Day Canyon, City Monument. Everybody went back home, giving our folks a chance to rest up. We're still up in case we get a new fire or any of the other normal emergencies that we would respond to. So hopefully that gives us a chance to get our folks up, rehabbed a little bit. When the state leaves, and this will fall back on us in the areas where we provide that protection. I think it's looking very good on the north side, and that's obviously where most of the structural problem was. We'll continue to work hand in hand with the state, and other than that, we just have to sort of wait and see what these next couple of days with the weather's going to do for us, and hopefully that doesn't create too many problems, and we'll go from there. So just keep a positive outlook, look forward, and what can we do next to maybe prevent this from happening again, as opposed to what happened last Friday. What happened last Friday was a very unique set of circumstances that created that. The likelihood of it getting at that point again, it certainly is possible, but however, I would think it is highly unlikely. So we'll go from there, and if anybody needs anything, if you see something that you're not comfortable with, call it into dispatch, and they will either give it to us to handle appropriately, or we'll kick it over to the state for their resources to take care of. Other than that, let's just keep a positive attitude, and we'll see where this all goes. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Now I'd like to bring up Grant County Sheriff Lynn Palmer.
This is the first time I've seen this, so I'd like to bring up a couple of things that's come across through the sheriff's office, and we're going to start relaxing a little bit on some of the evacuation levels, and we've been getting a little bit of confusion, and there's still been a lot of phone calls. So if you listen to the local radio station, and there's a lot of information on the internet, and we've been getting a lot of people hearing, well, we're hearing things over the scanners, we're hearing things over the radios, we're getting some conflicting information on road closures and the evacuation levels. So you can either call into the office or go online and check what those levels are. I think we're probably within a few days of probably opening Highway 395, and we've got a lot of work to do yet, as ODOT has mentioned. But one of the things I'd like to talk about is there's going to be a lot of people looking at this, and what it's done to our community. And the thing that I ask you to do is respect the private property, that these people will stay off their properties, even though everything's been burnt. There are some valuables that are still there. Even though the things that have been burnt and they're damaged and destroyed, it still belongs to somebody. So don't go onto their property and pick things up and take things away, because it still belongs to these people. I'd like to talk a little bit about safety. In the early mornings, we're getting an inversion, which basically looks like a big fog bank down here in the valley. And with all the extra traffic we've had, I'd like you to slow down a little bit and give yourself enough time to get somewhere. Give yourself an extra 10 or 15 minutes to get somewhere. Pay attention to the car in front of you, what's going on around you. And the same with the people that we're releasing back into these areas a little bit. We are far from being done with this incident, and it could change the same as it did when it came down this canyon. So pay attention to what's going on outside. The ones that you're going home that still have a home, pay attention to what's going on outside. If there's any unburned fuels on your properties, those could actually catch on fire again and put you at risk. So be careful there. Pay attention to what's going on around you. I want to say a big thank you to a couple of people Nathan Garrity came from Deschutes County, and he transitioned out, and we transitioned in an emergency management person from Crook County who's taken over some of the responsibilities on that. And we've also got a lady by the name of Jody Fleck that came from Crook County as well, and she's helping me put together we've been going around on ATVs and driving where we can and getting back up into some of these properties that back up here on Miller Mountain, and putting a resource list together of what's left and what's not left. I think we've come up with a couple more houses, but I don't want to say a firm number, but it's probably more than 26 or 27 total structures lost. And that's not counting sheds and outbuildings, that's counting where people were living. And that's a pretty big thing for our community. And we'll come out with a better number on that one. She's actually working on the list right now and finalizing it, so we're hoping to get that out either this evening or tomorrow morning. I want to give a big thank you to the incident management team and all these people between the state and the federal government that's been coming in here and trying to get this thing under control. There's still quite a bit of fire activity up in the upper end of the Candy Creek drainage from about, maybe where Fawn Springs Road turns off on up toward Wickiup Campground and up toward Kenny Speakman's house. So things are changing quick. So it's, we just appreciate the people's help and listening to the advice that we all have, and let's be safe out there.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday at 5:30 p.m. right here, once again. On behalf of the incident management teams, I'd just like to say it's an honor to serve your community, and we're here and we're going to be here for as long as it takes. Thank you for your time. Those representatives are available if you have questions or needs. Thank you.